Let's talk a little bit about scam notices. And this is something that I get tons of emails all the time as an attorney from my clients sending us screenshots or photos or scanned is always the best, we can read it the most, images of these letters that they've gotten in the mail, whether it be about their trademark, their business, their labor and employment compliance. There are a lot of companies out there that just love to search public databases. So anywhere you're registered as a business or your trademark might be registered, like with the USPTO, United States Patent and Trademark Office, any of those databases that are public, there are companies out there that literally just exist to scrape those databases, send out fake notices. And the crazy thing is that these fake notices are actually in relation to real laws and real compliance that you're responsible for as a business owner or as someone that has one of these registrations. But these notices that they send, they're not the real compliance. They're sending these notices to offer you a product that they sell that is far more expensive or sometimes not even needed in relation to the compliance that you do actually have to do. So let's actually talk specifically about a few of these notices that you might receive when you're out there doing business. So the first one is going to be your labor poster compliance notice. This notice gets sent to literally every client that I've ever had and pretty much anyone doing business that I've ever heard of. And it is a notice that looks super official, looks exactly like it came from a government office, looks like it's talking about statutes, and it probably is actually talking about the valid statutes, but you always want to look for on these notices a line or a couple lines that say something along the lines of, this was not sent by a government agency, or something like, this is not sponsored, this is not associated with a government agency or a government office. They are required by law, so our laws permit them to send these scam notices, but they are required to include on them that they are not an official government notice, so that if there is some kind of dispute or issue later, they can point to that and say, look, we told you we weren't an official government office. Now, as a business owner, you got a lot of things going on, and to look through every one of these notices and read it verbatim every time and see that notice in there, not always likely, and that's actually what they're relying on. They're relying on busy people that don't have the time to vet these stupid notices that they send, and then you just send off money to this company for a labor poster, for instance, and watch my videos on labor and employment compliance, because you do either have to post a poster in your workplace physically up on the wall, or there are some ways that you can make it available digitally for your employees. But it is something you have to do as an employer with employees. But this notice that they send, they're asking for, like, I think it's $160 or $180 for this poster. You can get it on Amazon for like $50 or less. So that's one example, right? Now, another example is going to be with your trademark. If you file for a trademark, and even if you don't get it registered, you're going to start receiving scam notices. The USPTO actually has an entire web page dedicated to these types of scam notices, pictures of them, the titles of the companies that send them, and one of the ones that you're always going to receive is from the WIPO, which is something along the lines of like the World Intellectual Property Organization. This may or may not be a real organization, but they'll send you a notice that's asking for close to usually $1,700 to get your trademark registered worldwide. And let's be real here for a second. There is a process and a system to get your trademark registered worldwide, but don't go through this random scam company that just sends you a cold letter out of the blue because they saw you on a database. Work with an attorney that knows how to register you with the entire world if you want to do that, because there are different frameworks, there are different price points, there are different strategies involved. So don't just blindly pay this like $1,675 that they ask for. I tell my clients, you're not going to receive any trademark notices that are actual notices that require your action or your payment unless they come from me. And if you have a trademark lawyer, that's typically how it's going to be. So we're talking about labor and compliance scam notices, talking about trademark scam notices, and then there are a couple other ones that come around that are scam notices, but they're usually related to a real legal deadline. So one of them is going to be, in California, your statement of information filing. So when you have a company, either every year or every other year, this is dependent on the type of company you have, watch my other videos for details on that, but you'll have to file a statement of information. It's like a one-page document $20 or $25 filing fee depending on your entity, corporation or LLC. And you just have to file it just to update some information. And that's usually a 5-month window to file that before some month that is the deadline. And you'll start getting notices, sometimes actually from the state, that tell you to file this. And those aren't scams, but they don't usually query if you've actually filed it recently. So sometimes you'll file your statement of information and you'll still get a notice from the state to file your statement of information. So that's one confusing way that that happens. But then there are other companies that, again, are just companies that have nothing to do with the state or the government, and they send you a notice telling you that you need to renew or file your statement of information, even if you've already filed it. Or sometimes the unfortunate thing that happens with these scam notices is they send them like 10 months in advance. And that is confusing. When you have a filing deadline, you want to make sure that you're clear on when that is and you file it then. And these notices that come way too far in advance can be confusing, and it causes some chaos as trying to scramble to figure that out. So statement of information, sometimes you'll get a scam notice for those. Again, look on that notice for whether or not it is from a government agency or office. And if it's not, you can probably disregard it. If it is, take a look at the deadline, reach out to your lawyer. Now, another one is going to be for trademark renewals. So trademarks need to be renewed between your 5th and 6th year of registration, and you have a really long runway to do that. They give you like a year and a half to file before you have to pay extra fees. But these scam companies are sending these notices out way, way, way in advance, like a year in advance of the year period. So then again, it causes a bunch of confusion, and you don't know if you need to file something now, if you need to file it later, and it just causes too much confusion, and I think really quite a pain when you're busy and you have too many things to keep track of already. So again, on that one, look for a notice on there that it is not from the USPTO, because the USPTO really doesn't send much out in the mail. They send virtually everything via email anyway. So anything you receive in mail related to a trademark, probably not valid. So remember, once you have anything filed or registered or stated with a government office, and there's a couple here I didn't cover, like the EDD or the Franchise Tax Board in California, if you're registered with any of those, chances are some company out there has a little bot, a code that goes and scrapes all the databases and just finds your info and sends you a fake notice. So anytime you get those, first and foremost, look for the not from a government agency or office. And then second, if it's still confusing, reach out to your attorney. They will quickly be able to recognize that notice and say, that's crap, your actual deadline is on this date, or whatever the case may be. So hopefully this is helpful to alleviate a little bit of stress when you get all these fake bullshit notices out there that have nothing to do with anything, or they do, but just are not exactly accurate or not exactly timely. And again, just reach out to your lawyer. They'll be able to help. And so I hope this was helpful. Have a good day.